Good afternoon, committees, the joint committees, the conference committees for House Bill 1600 is here to deliberate on the state budget on behalf of the House. It's myself as chair. Present are Representative Yamashita, Representative Nishimoto, Representative Burke Kobayashi, Representative Holt, Representative Eli, Representative Wahlberger, Representative Peruso, Representative Iligan, Representative Martin, Representative Tam, and Representative McDermott.
Thank you. For the Senate, myself as chair and co-chairs, we have Senator Steve Agaran, Senator Dani Kanuha, Inoue, Ms. Alucha, Favela present.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Dela Cruz. On behalf of the House, let me just thank you and thank the members of WAM and thank the WAM staff and the departments for your work on helping us with this budget. 2 years ago, we were faced with close to a $3 billion budget deficit, and we were in a very difficult place at that point, trying to figure out how we can ensure that our safety net programs and programs that really service the public and the people remain intact. And I know the departments had a really difficult time in making decisions on where the cuts would be. And we saw substantial cuts in social service programs, programs that really impacted people. We were very thankful for the relief funds that we received from the federal government, where we were able to reinstate and shore up many of the programs. And thanks to the working relationship between the House and the Senate and between the executive branch, that we are in this position now. And we are very grateful for the public and the patience and the pain that the public had to go through the last 2 years. And we're just very thankful for the people of Hawaii for sticking with each other, taking care of each other, and having us in a position where we're able to deliberate on the budget. First off, let me just thank my counterpart and
Thank you.
his work, and vice chair. And sometimes it's just as challenging when we have a budget deficit because we're struggling with what programs may need to be reduced or cut. But at the same time, it is likewise challenging when there are revenues and we need to prioritize where we have to shore up certain things, but at the same time, make sure that the future legislature don't be burdened with some of the decisions that we make today. So we've made sure that a lot of the agreements and acts were sometimes one-time funding, funding that needed help, that did not get help for the last basically 10 plus years. So we're happy that we're in this position. So the last 5 years, it's been a pleasure working with my counterpart. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to you.
And if we can also thank the vice chair, who also is the CIP chair for the House. If we really can give a big round of applause to all the staff. And definitely the leadership who helped support us, so Senate President and Speaker, who is normally here too. So if we can thank them. So these last several years have been quite complicated I'm not going to repeat what the chair said, but one of the things I do want to add is how technical the budget has become because of us accepting the ARPA funds. So with the recoupment clauses, with the maintenance of effort, it was extremely difficult to make sure that we complied with all the different federal requirements and still achieve the needs for Hawaii. So I really want to thank the House Finance Chair for her patience and for her diligence, as well as the committee. I also want to thank the CIP chairs who did a phenomenal amount of work in making sure that all the members' priorities were reached and also that meets the needs of what our residents would like to see. So I'll just go over the last 5 years. So when I first became WAM chair, I think the first year we had floods. And then the second year we had the eruption. And then we had basically 3 years of the pandemic. And so you really establish a good relationship with someone when you have to go through these kind of big issues to make sure that Hawaii is going to be stable. And so, I really want to thank the Fin chair. I'm really sad to see that she'll be moving on, but I'm also happy for her. I think it's more our loss. But I'm looking forward to working with her in her new capacity so that we can still fulfill the needs of what Hawaii really aspires to be. So if we can just thank her again for all her hard work and her dedication.
Okay, so we're ready to proceed. Okay, so we will go through the highlights. Normally we go through all the line by line, but instead of doing that, we will read through the highlights. As soon as we are done voting, the worksheets will be okay, so the agrees and disagrees will be posted, and in addition to that, the CIP and GIA will also be posted. So with that, we are passing out the highlights so that the members can follow along as we go through some of the description. Clearly, we're not going to go through all the descriptions, and so we ask for the patience of the department. If a lot of times there were disagreements, and if there are disagreements, instead of saying there were disagreements and they fell off, those will be limboed out. So we probably won't be mentioning that. There will be a lot of things which won't be mentioned. So please follow up with us, but give our staff a little bit more time because they still have to deck the budget. So if you can give us patience before you start calling our offices right away. So with that, we would like to go through some of the things that are included in this budget. So under Department of Agriculture, $658,000 or so for position for aquaculture development, $800,000 for ungulate fencing for local farmers, primarily on the neighbor islands, $425,000 for invasive pest species such as coffeeberry borer, spittlebug, and Japanese beetle, mainly impacting two industries, coffee industry and ranching. $1.7 million and two positions to clear a portion of the stream in Kapa'a, Kauai. $26 million to upgrade the Waihoa Dam and spillway and purchase lands in fee simple interest. $654,000 for rabies quarantine from the Animal Quarantine Special Fund. $551,000 for improvement of the Menehune Ditch, $800,000 for irrigation management on agribusiness development corporation land, $224,000 to fund one economist position and two surveys to double local fruit production within USDA, and $800,000 for pesticide disposable program.
For Department of Accounting and General Services, $500,000 for a creative grant program for the State Foundation on Culture and Arts, $2 million to support the mission of Iolani Palace, and $17.5 million to support and improve the Bishop Museum. For Department of the Attorney General, $3.3 million for raises for the Deputy Attorney General, 1.6 million to revitalize the statewide career criminal and victim statewide witness program. $114,500 to establish a victim witness support team to assist victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. $1.5 million to establish a new office for human trafficking abatement. $6.7 million to modernize the aging KK database, the Child Support Enforcement Services Division, which they have used since 1998, to a state-of-the-art platform that will increase efficiency and data quality.
For Department of Budget and Finance, around $33.3 million to leverage federal funds to expand broadband deployment. And as you know, there are about $200 million in federal funds already allocated for broadband. So this will also help in that effort. $335 million to restore pre-funding of OPEB since we delayed that last year. For DBED, $660,000 to cover the cost of moving expenses for the Office of Strategic Marketing and Support while their office receives much needed renovation. $488,000 and 7 new positions for the Hawaii State Energy Office to support renewable energy projects across the state. $1.5 million for accelerated awards, $2.3 million to establish Carbon Smart Land Management Assistance Pilot Program, and a Hawaii Air Noise and Safety Task Force. $13.8 million for infrastructure upgrades for Kalailoa to improve roadways, regional connection utilities, and additional water and power infrastructure, and $5 million for affordable home ownership.
For the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, 8 positions and $546,000 for the Division of Vocational Licensing to improve processing of licensure applications. For the Department of Defense, $99,000 to establish 1 threat assessment planner for the Office of Homeland Security, $645,000 to clear foliage around the State Veterans Cemetery, $125,000 to obtain an additional excavator and utility tractor for State Veterans Cemetery to assist with burial and groundskeeping duties. The restoration of $5 million to the Major Disaster Fund, and $35 million in general funds for plans, design, construction, and equipment for infrastructure and facilities for the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency.
For the Department of Education, $32.5 million to address several areas, including hard-to-staff concerns in certain geographical locations, to retain and recruit teachers for special education and provide Hawaiian language immersion for students. $6.3 million to furnish and equip new classrooms and school buildings across the state. $332,000 and 2 positions to coordinate the Hawaii State Teacher Fellows Program, $600,000 for Grow Our Own teacher stipends, a little over $1 million to add 17 positions to make the pilot special education teacher mentor program permanent, $1 million to deploy a sensor network in air-conditioned classrooms to optimize classroom conditions for students and staff, $1 million to install security cameras at 11 libraries, $750,000 for public libraries to purchase digital and physical materials for community use, $2 million to provide menstrual products at schools. I know this is something that was really important for members. We still need the bill because that provides mandated language. And then thanks to some of the work, many of the work of the members of the legislature, we were able to put this in the budget, and the amount that is allocated is a little bit more than what was requested, only to make sure that money doesn't become a factor for menstrual equity. $3 million to convert 40-year-old barcode systems to RFID technology to increase efficiency for both the staff and the public at the libraries. $250,000 for education programs for incarcerated women, $2 million for charter school Hawaiian immersion teachers, $855,000 to add 3 positions for a Waianae fish hatchery program.
For Office of the Governor, we Have 331,000 to restore intergovernmental policy unit for Department of Hawaiian Homelands, $10 million for Hawaiian Homestead Services, and a little over 1 million to fund 20 positions important to land leases, loans, and fiscal services. And for Department of Human Resources Development, 90,000 for restoration of one administrative assistant.
For Department of Human Services, $4 million annually to increase TANF. This is for the most neediest of our population. So this is an increase in their allotment. $500,000 in additional funding for rental assistance service programs, 2 additional social worker positions for child protective service programs, over $3 million in operating costs, and 25 positions to implement childcare subsidies program within the department statewide for eligible low-income families. This is in addition to $6.9 million to assist families with childcare payments. $2 million to fund a database and a wage subsidy for early learning educators. $450,000 to fund maintenance and repair as well as services to transfer youth to mental health residential programs. $400,000 for sex trafficking victim support services. So as you have heard in the Attorney General's office, we are creating a sex trafficking office, and then we're also providing sex trafficking victim support services. So I think this is something that has been really highlighted by some of the members like Representative Eli and others. And this is really important that we're establishing these 2 sections. $1.8 million for the exit retention bonus programs to help families successfully exit the TANF program. $6 million for the TANF program to procure innovative after-school services. $23 million to fund additional housing subsidies of up to $500 per month. We wanted to thank the housing chairs for thinking of this initiative because we found that TANF monies could also be used for rent subsidy. So they have done a really significant job to support the TANF families in this budget. $2.5 million in ARPA funds for continuing COVID response, $5.8 million, and this is significant. And really the thanks goes out to the members of the Women's Caucus for pushing this, but $5.8 million will be used to expand postpartum coverage for 2 to 12 months. And thanks to all the members of the Women's Caucus and friends of the Women's Caucus. Of course, this is something that we have been looking at, and this was a program that was lost in 2009 after the last economic downfall, and this is to restore adult dental benefits. So this budget has $25 million to restore adult dental benefits, and both the House and the Senate members who have been fighting for adult dental care in our Medicaid community, all really thanks goes out to you folks for continuing to fight for that. And lastly, $1.1 million for COLEA maintenance and operations.
For the Department of Health, $5 million for COVID-19 testing, $16.3 million for Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, $500,000 for needs and site assessment for new Kona Hospital, $8.9 million for the Maui Health System, and $16.3 million for HHSC Oahu Region, $537,000 and 8 psychiatrists and psychologist positions for adult mental health outpatient, $88,000 and 3 positions for family health services, $14 million for Hawaii State Laboratory for modernization of existing lab facility, $60,000 to restore funding for 1 communication access specialist whose primary responsibilities include credentialing sign language interpreters and communications access for state programs and services, $1.2 million for ambulances for Hawaii County, $1.6 for Maui and Kauai emergency medical services, $2.6 million for kupuna care programs, and $1.5 million for Aging and Disability Resource Center for all counties across the state.
For Department of Labor, $450,000 for one-stop workforce information for workforce development, $5.2 million and 7 positions for high school and post-high post-high internship across state departments. And this is really the innovative vision of the Wed Apr, trying to engage high school students and college students to have paid internship programs throughout the state so that they be interested in what is available. So we wanted to thank the Wed Apr and her director for working on this initiative. And of course, Department of Labor for always being willing to take on new tasks. So thank you, Director Estacio in the back. $235,000 to fund up to elevator inspectors and an online scheduling system. $321 million for unemployment insurance benefit payment program to increase unemployment benefit payments. $2 million for emergency food assistance in all 4 counties statewide.
For Department of Land and Natural Resources, $3 million for public lands management operating expenses, $895,000 and 7 new land agent positions across the state, $15,000 to upgrade the wildlife technician position on Kauai Island, $129,000 for 2 new aquatic biologist positions to restart the marine aquaculture program and manage the coral program and nursery, $1.7 million in additional funds for rapid Ohia death response, $1.5 million in additional funds for the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, $1.2 million for 3 positions for access deer medication, $50,000 for creation of a rustic parking area and trail maintenance at Manawili Trail, $400,000 in additional funding for operating expenses at the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve, $2 million for security services at critical infrastructure locations, $291,000 and 12 positions for the Marine Security Division to provide additional protection for Hawaii's beaches and wildlife, $500,000 for Ma'alea harbor improvements, $4 million for Honokahau small boat harbor wastewater infrastructure, $2 million for trail cleanup and restoration, $1.2 million and 28 positions for state parks restoration and maintenance, and $82,000 for 1 new abstractor exposition.
Thank you. For Department of Public Safety, $320,000 to add 6 clinical psychologists to provide evening and weekend psychology services, $626,000 to convert means of financing for a Crime Victim Compensation Commission. Department of Transportation at the airports, around $17 million to revitalize the Wiki bus, $2.3 million for increasing cost of utilities at all utility safety maintenance and janitorial services at the airports. At harbors, around $1 million for increasing costs of utilities, security services and maintenance at the harbors. Highways, $2 million for invasive species removal focused on albizia. $194,000 for repair and maintenance of street lights and upgrades to LED in Hawaii County. $10 million to fund store properties. $800,000 to purchase a mobile scanner to help with property damage.
And so for University of Hawaii, I know that some of the Senate members have been taking some criticisms about our relationship with the University of Hawaii, but we really wanted to show that the Senate does support the university, which is why we have our university masks. And we also have for the House university masks. And we'll have university masks as well for the Fin staff and WAM staff. So for University of Hawaii, $7 million and $800,000 in funds for UH Manoa and UH Hilo athletics, respectively. $1.6 million to expand JABSOM's graduate residency program for neighbor island rotations. $1.7 million for nursing clinical instructor lecturers. $580,000 for improvements to the Ernst Theater at UH Manoa. $557,000 and 4 positions to address the teacher shortage in Hawaii. $190,000 and 2 positions to kickstart the aviation program at UH Hilo. $2.8 million and 14 positions for the Imiloa immersion program at UH Hilo. $836,000 and 3 positions for the Maui Food Innovation Center. $389,000 and 840,000 and 8 positions for the Culinary Institute of the Pacific at KCC.
Thank you. And then that is the operating budget. I will now turn it over to both the CIP chairs if they wanted to add some comments. My gratitude goes out to both CIP sub-chair, Representative Yamashita and Vice Chair Gail Keith Agaran for their work. I know, the last 2 years we, as construction, supply chain lagged, and a lot of the materials and expenses increased. So in as much as we think construction costs remain stable, it actually skyrocketed, which added to even more of kind of additional burden and additional stress on both the CIP chairs. But I think they did a really good job in trying to come to some type of equitable and fair process where you take care of the needs of the state in addition to taking care of the needs of the department. So let me turn it over to Vice Chair Yamashita.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to work on this budget, to work with you for these past 10 years. Yeah, went by fast. But and I look forward to working you in your new capacity. And I'd also like to thank the members for allowing me to work on this again and giving me your input. And I think we were able to do a lot this year. And then also to thank the Senate and the Wed Chair and the Vice Chair, because I know we spent a lot of hours together figuring everything out. And we actually met, I don't know, 6-7 times. Many times going past midnight, and I think, but we ironed everything out, and I think we ended up with a good budget. This is a lot of money that went into the CIP budget. I think it is just north of $6 billion in total of all means of financing, which will help our construction industry and help many of our departments with their needs throughout the state. So I really believe this is very, very good. So we'll just read off a few. I don't know if you want to read all. Let him say a few words. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I just want to also thank the chair for allowing us to assist in putting together the budget, as well as the staff from both finance and WAM for their assistance. I especially want to thank the members of both the House and the Senate for helping to identify the priorities that are in your community and bring them to us to see if we could put that into the budget. With that, you want to just read off some highlights? This is not all the projects, obviously, given the size of this year's CIP budget. We can start with the Department of Agriculture. We have $3.5 million for modifications to the Kikaha ditch irrigation system, $5 million for improvements to the Waiholi water system, $4 million for improvements to agricultural infrastructure on Oahu, and $500,000 for the Hawaii reservoir decommissioning.
Okay, for the Department of Accounting and General Services, $1 million for improvement, modernization, and expansion of critical communication systems, $5.1 million for improvement and maintenance of public facilities and sites statewide, $1 million for the development of the state archives master plan.
We included $115.4 million in ARPA funds to construct and deploy broadband infrastructure statewide. We did allocate $350 million for a new stadium in Halawa, $41.5 million for Hawaiian Homeland's affordable rental housing, $2 million for transit-oriented development planning, $500,000 for feasibility and cost studies to develop the convention center, to redevelop the convention center, $17.8 million for first responders technology campus and cybersecurity data center, $3 million for crosswalk safety and other area improvements for Kolovalu Park,
Okay, for the Department of Defense, for $3 million for retrofitting public buildings and with hurricane protective measures statewide. $5 million for upgrades and improvements of the Primary Emergency Operations Center. $450,000 for the upgrade and improvements of the National Guard Youth Challenge Academy at Kalailoa. For the Department of Education, there's $256 million for repair and maintenance of projects statewide, $58 million for Farrington High School for their phase 2 master plan, which I think is very important. $35 million for Central Kitchen in Lilihu and Mililani Wailua Complex, $28.6 million gender equity ADA compliance, and $15 million for health and safety improvements statewide.
We included 20 million for master planning a new elementary and middle school in Central Maui. 355 million in federal funding for a new East Kapolei High School. 100,000 for a feasibility study to build a new East Kapolei High School with federal funds. For the libraries, 7 million to support health and safety improvements statewide. 5 million for networks and related support infrastructure statewide. 28 million to redesign and expand Pearl City Library.
Okay, for the Department of Human Services, $10 million for the renovation and improvement of public housing facilities, $10 million for the development of 300 mixed income units and 300 leasehold units at near right housing properties. For the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, we added $20 million for the development statewide and $5 million for the repair and maintenance projects.
There's also a bill with more money for Hawaiian homes, I understand. The Department of Health, 9 million for Kalapapa settlement for health and safety improvements. 5.3 million for water system improvements for the Hawaii State Hospital. 1.5 million to replace chillers for Hilo Medical Center. 1.6 million for improvements to Kahuku Medical Center. 4 million for renovations and repairs to Ka'u Hospital. 3.1 million for Kona Community Hospital improvements. 1 million for Kauai Veterans Memorial Hospital. 3 million for improvements to Oahu Region Hawaii Health Systems Corporation facilities. 32.9 million for safe drinking water revolving fund, and 30 million for the wastewater treatment revolving fund.
Okay, for the Department of Land and Natural Resources, $8 million for the watershed protection and restoration initiative statewide, $13.5 million special funds for demolition of former Uncle Billy's at Hilo Bay Hotel, $5 million for the Upulu well at development on North Kohala, $2 million for the deep monitoring well, drinking aquifer for health, $2.1 million at Kenai Point State Park improvements, $1.1 million for the Keolonahi'i State Park Historic Park improvements, $3 million for phase 2 of the Polihale State Park, $5 million for dredging at Mauna Loa Bay, and $8 million for improvements at the harbor docks, break wall at Kauai High North, small boat harbor, $4.1 million for a new boat ramp at Kikio'ola Small Boat Harbor, and $500,000 for
the Department of Public Safety, 20 million for repair and maintenance statewide. 7 million to address ADA projects statewide. 3 million for deferred maintenance statewide. 2.5 million for the Laumaka Work Furlough Center. You want to do Department of Transportation?
No, I'm gonna let you do your UH. Because Senate wants to do UH. $189.4 million for airfield improvements, $95 million for improvements at the Daniel K. Inouye Airport, $45 million for improvements to the terminals and facilities at Kahului Airport, $22 million for improvements at Kalailoa Airport, $53 million for environmental compliance and other improvements for airports statewide, $155.5 million for rehabilitation and replacement of state highways and bridges, $4 million for highway lighting and improvements, $1.5 million for bikeway improvements statewide, $1.5 million for site survey and alternative routes for Puna, $35 million for Highway 130, and $8.6 billion for traffic light modernization statewide. Oh, Yeah, go ahead.
Mhm.
You can do it.
All right, we also added 14.5 million for freeway destination sign upgrades. 75 million for West Oahu Regional Transportation roadway improvements. 95 million for Farrington Highway widening. And then for the University of Hawaii, 50 million for renewal, modernization, and repair projects statewide. 25 million for capital renewal and deferred maintenance for community colleges statewide. 11.5 million for the Waikiki Aquarium repairs and improvements. And 4 million for Vocational Technology Center at the University of Hawaii Maui College.
Can I make a quick comment? For School Facilities Authority, if you notice, we appropriated $355 million for the new East Kapolei High School in federal funds. What that is a we're trying to do an experiment where we're going to access federal rural development money. Nationwide, USDA provides fundings to build schools for rural areas, and the money goes normally to the counties. But as you know, our state does not, the counties do not build schools in our state. So we have never been able to access this money. So it was critical that we created the School Facilities Authority, because USDA said if we word it correctly or put it together correctly, it can be considered a subdivision of the state and be able to access this rural development money. So this is something new for us, and we're hoping that we are successful with this. Most of the projects will be on the neighbor island if we're successful, because that's the rural areas. But my hope is that by access this money, which is cheaper than when we can float tax exempt general obligation bonds we're going to be able to open up more capacity for projects statewide. Thank you.
And then now turning to grant and aid, let me just make the point that this year's grant and aid, unlike years past, I've been doing finance for the last 10 years, and throughout the 10 years, you always see grants and aid, and you always can tell, okay, these are, there are many worthy programs. This year, what we have seen was that we have never seen so many established organizations who that had never come in for grant and aid, come in for grant and aid. So that shows you automatically the last 2 years have been significantly hard for the nonprofits and providers that are providing essential programs. So we have never seen such impact in the community to a point where they were coming in for the first time. And these were well-established organizations that had no problem in raising money in the past, but just from the application, we could tell that it was struggling a lot. So with the concurrence of the grant and aid chairs and WAM chair, what we have done this year was we usually have $30 million appropriated for grant and aid, but we decided to provide $50 million for grant and aid, which was able to take care of a lot more organizations. Clearly, we weren't able to take care of all, even if we wanted to, but I think that provided a huge opportunity. So, thank you to the grant and aid chairs, Representative Nishimoto, Chair Dela Cruz, and Vice Chair Algaran for working on this thing, because vetting through over 300 application itself is a really difficult job. So I think we can pass on. So we will now be passing out the grant and aid awards, and those will also be posted as soon as we vote. Representative Nishimoto.
You took everything I was going to say. First of all, let me really give my heartfelt thank you to the members of the House for allowing me to be a representative on this again. I also want to thank the staff, particularly my GIA specialist, Taylor Date, and the finance GIA specialist, John Kalmura. They worked very hard on this, and I'm very thankful for that. I do want to thank my Senate counterparts, Senator Dela Cruz and Senator Algaran. Once again, you are tough but fair negotiators in this, and I thank you for your collaborative efforts in this. Like Chair Luke said, we had an unprecedented amount of applications this year, and there was an unprecedented amount of need. While we weren't able to fulfill or to fund every need, I think we put together a good list and one that will do a lot of good in our communities.
I just want to thank our staff. I know David, Danielle, they worked really hard. We get the opportunity to split the list in half. So Senator Keith Agaran gets the CIP, I get the operating, but Rep. Nishimoto, you have the arduous task of reading all of the applications. So we want to just thank you for all your hard work.
Okay, so with that, any comments or discussion? Members? While you're busy going through GIA list and CIP list. So why don't we, we're ready to vote. So I don't know if this is the first time we opened and closed. Yeah, okay, so we're ready to vote, members. Now that Representative Branco is here, we were stalling until you come.
You wanna repeat everything for me?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So House Bill 1600, House Draft 1, Senate Draft 1. This is with, we'll be passing out a CD. May I take the vote? I'll take the vote for the House. Myself vote aye. Representative Branco.
Aye.
Representative Eli.
Aye.
Representative Hope.
Aye.
Representative Iligan.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Martin. Representative Nishimoto.
Aye.
Representative Peruso. Representative Sayama is excused. Representative Tam.
Aye.
Representative Todd.
Aye.
Representative Wildberger. Thank you. Representative Yamashita.
Aye.
Representative McDermott.
Yes.
Okay, may I take the vote for the Senate?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Dela Cruz.
Aye.
Vice Chair, Co-Chair Keith Agaran.
Aye.
Senator Inoue.
Aye.
Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator Kidani.
Aye.
Senator Misa Lucha. Senator Moriwaki. Senator Shimabukuro. Senator Taniguchi.
Aye.
Senator Wakai.
Yes.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Thank you. It's adopted. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. We have two more things on the agenda, so you don't have to stay.
Except for,
You don't have to stay except for Yamashita, McDermott on our side, Dela Cruz, Kanuha, Agaran, Favela, you have to stay. So if we can quickly vote on House Bill 1540, Senate Draft 1, this is relating to the state bonds. It's myself and Representative Yamashita as co-chair, Representative McDermott as member.
for the Senate, myself as chair, Senators Kanuha, Keith Agaran, and Favela as members.
Thank you. This is a state bond bill. If I could take the vote.
Yes.
We have a CD. For myself, it's I, co-chair Yamashita, Representative McDermott.
Yes.
Thank you. May I take the vote for the Senate?
Yes.
Chair Dela Cruz,
Aye.
Senator Kanuha,
Aye.
Senator Keith Agaran,
Yes.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Thank you very much. This is adopted. Next bill, House Bill 1147, Senate Draft 1. If we can roll it to Friday at 1:30 in this conference room.
Yes.
Thank you. Hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.